Hey folks, Dino here again. Finally taking a look at, well, it's not the newest Figuarts anymore. Yeah, I think by now Full Power Frieza has released in Japan. I've seen a couple of in-hand photos and such from the Discord. So yeah, but we're here. I finally got them in hand, so I'm going to review them. As always. This is Vegeta, 24,000 power level. Continuing two trends with Tamashii recently. One being their insistence on giving every figure subtitles, and also their somewhat inability to give any premium Bandai release any more than half a thought to how they're making their figures. Because yes, to no one's surprise, this Vegeta is probably one of their most frustrating releases in a long time. Honestly, I have been waiting literal decades to get a Namek Saga Vegeta with the shoulder pauldrons. And for whatever reason, Tamashii literally half-baked it. I have no idea why. Like, parts of this figure look so good. Like the face, the actual chest proportions, they look brilliant. And then you come to the articulation, which for some reason seems as if it's been done by a monkey. Like, I have no idea what they were thinking. And for whatever reason, they've retooled this guy into the end of the Frieza saga, or the end of the Namek Saga Vegeta, but they've kept the same issues. Like, I really don't understand what the thought process is when making this figure. So yeah, this might be a ranty one, folks. I apologise in advance. This will probably end up being a two-part review, because there's at least one part of this figure that I am dying to fix. And you can see them poking out of either side of him. But yeah, enough of my rant for now. Let's get him off the turntable and take a look at his box. So yeah, standard Tamashii box from Figuarts. We've got the same style window packaging that we always get. We get Vegeta, 24,000 power level. Nice picture there. I do like the colours they've went with the blue and the white. It suits Vegeta, really does. We also get, designed by Tamashii Nations in Japan, by a monkey, Bandai Spirits made in China. So at least it's not a Vietnam release. We can count our blessings with that one. Tamashii logo, or Tamashii quality sticker, Toei logo, Dragon Ball Z, and the P Bandai logo on the bottom. They're not even bothering to translate the P Bandai logo anymore. I have no idea why. Ages 15 and up. Some more pictures on the side, and some images of on the back, which, quite frankly, like, whoever posed this guy for the promo images, fire him immediately. Like, not a single one of these images has the shoulder pauldrons in the right place. Even his crossed arms, which is probably the easiest one to pose. Yeah, messed it up completely. No idea why. I also noticed they seem to have done away with the blurb entirely. Either that, or it's underneath one of the many excess stickers that I've got, because this is an import. This was imported by Hio this time around. So yeah, not sure if the blurb's behind this, or if they literally just split it up into a couple little sentences. First time I've noticed that. That is a bit disappointing, not gonna lie. And yeah, on the other side, we just have his name right there. So yeah, all in all, standard packaging. Let's take a look at his accessories. So in terms of accessories, he comes with an okay amount. Like, at the end of the day, I'm really struggling to see why some of these figures are picked to be premium Bandai exclusives. Like, apart from the fact that they will never be reissued, which sucks. For some reason, Tamashii just puts so little effort into the P Bandai line these days. Like, if you're going to do that, Tamashii, just make everything a normal release. Like, no one is going to miss the P Bandai line if you do away with it. It just means that these feel like they've got even less value when they're in the P Bandai line with so little effort put into them. But yeah, in terms of faces, we get this one on him, which by far the faces are the best part of this figure. That is one place that Tamashii have been striving at recently, is the faces just look like they're pulled straight from the anime now. I am not sure how they've managed it. Some of these faces are really approaching like third-party levels of detail. But yeah, we get the standard smirk face. You'll notice his ear is missing. They've started doing this with the Scouter figures now, where it just plugs into the side of their head, and you get a spare ear to put on it. So you can just slot that in like so. And yeah, I'm not sure which way I prefer, because obviously having a separate ear means that you will always see a seam line, regardless of how well they do it. But in other words, like the old way they did it, where it folded over the ear and such, it just wouldn't work with like proper anime scales. Like, you check that, and his ear is literally poking out the top of it. So yeah, bit of a shame. Pops in and out easily enough though, and the Scouter does go on really well. With these older figures, like most of the time I'll be posing him with the Scouter anyway, so not too big of a deal. Let's put him back over there. So he comes with that smirk. He also comes with a sort of maniacal grin, which is actually really nice. I do like that. That little bit of white showing through is really good. The paint apps on the hair could be better. This one in particular is a little bit rough around his widow's peak, for example. We also have teeth gritted face, looking a bit angry. Really nice. You can also see the widow's peak on this one is a bit sort of fuzzy at the edge. I think they've oversprayed it a little on that one. And the final one, which is him incredibly angry. I think that this is from the scene where he realises Gohan has stolen the Dragon Ball that he hid under the lake. And if you're watching the Team 4-star version, transcended space and time. But yeah, it looks really good. I love the expressiveness of these new faces that they're making. Really, really good. He comes with a brand new style. Well, it's not entirely brand new. Android 17 from back in the day had a similar setup to how these went on. But basically, instead of popping the arms off under the shoulder, like at the bicep swivel, now you just pop the entire shoulder assembly off and pop these into the sides. And you may be wondering how you do that when this is supposed to be snug up against them. You pop that off. That is really, really simple. Really, really good. I'm kind of hoping this works with the 2.0 Vegetas. I don't know if it will, because obviously he's got quite broad chest, which is accurate to that point in the anime. But at the same time, like, this would be so much easier to put on than popping the biceps off. Like, really. I think they actually copied the Figuarts team with this one. because this is almost identical to what I just built a couple of episodes or a couple of videos ago. So if you want to see their version, go and check that video out. But yeah, really like that. Really like it a lot. Finally, we get 4 sets of hands, a pair of fists which are on him in the package. The only new, like actual new sculpt for the hands, which is these sort of Big Bang style Ki Blast hands. I say new, they might be from Vegeta, the 2.0 Vegeta, but I am not entirely sure. They are definitely not the same as the ones that we have been getting, so that is a bonus at least. A pair of grippy Final Flash style hands, always welcome with a Vegeta. And a pair of splayed open style hands. These are good for Ki Blasts, and I believe he had them like this for his final crash attack, not to be confused with the final flash, although it does look pretty similar. But I think he used it against Raccoon and immediately regretted it because it done absolutely nothing to him. But yeah, that does it for the accessories, unfortunately. We don't get any effect pieces. We don't even get any... Well, I think, now that I think about it, I haven't ordered them, but I'm sure Kui actually comes with a side-facing, like, gritty teeth face, and his double finger, like, dirty fireworks hand. But yeah, a little bit scummy that a premium Bandai figure doesn't come with everything it needs out of the box. You need to buy another premium Bandai release to sort of complete it, and even then it's not even completed. Like, I'm assuming the faces on the old armor style, they're calling it, that he uses when he fights Frieza, I'm assuming those faces will work interchangeably with this guy. So yeah, that is technically 3 entire figures just to complete one. I really, really dislike when they do that. Give us bonus faces, by all means, but things like stern faces, or faces needed for signature attacks, or even hands needed for signature attacks, please give us that in the base release, Tamashii. Like, you really have to work that out a lot better. So yeah, let's take a look at the figure now. So yeah, in terms of the figure, like I said before, it is a really, really nice figure. But if Tamashii would have just not half-assed it, it would have been perfect. Like, it really would have been. The chest and like sort of ab section looks fine once you've got it in sort of position, but I am not sure what this cutout was for. Like, just do what you've done with literally every single Vegeta up to this point, Tamashii, and just give us a curved cut. Like, the edges draw attention to the shadows that it creates, and it just doesn't look like one coherent piece. Like, you've literally been doing it for decades at this point. Like, that is so much more seamless. There is still a bit of a gap, but you don't notice it the same because it's all one cut. Like, I am not sure why they went this direction, to be completely honest with you. I feel as if an intern designed this figure, and everyone at the factory was like too concerned that the guy would be really sad if his design didn't get through. But yeah, the shoulders as well, like, they seen how happy we all were when they came out with that with the Dragon Ball Super Broly, the armoured version. But for whatever reason, forgot the entire reason for them doing it. Like, Broly's, you could literally put it in whatever position it needed to be. This one, you're lucky if you can get it seamless against the armor. Like, and these damn shoulders do not help one little bit. Like, oh, I am sorry this has been such a negative review so far, folks, but it honestly is so infuriating to me. Like, why? I mean, the Vegeta, the colour of this armour is literally identical to the reissues that we got. So, for example, this is the reissue Vegeta body. I put the Trunks shoulders on, which they do have. There is a slight colour difference, but not enough to notice it. I am really not sure why they did this. Trunks has perfect shoulders. Use them on all the Vegetas. We do not need these overly bulky, puffy shoulders on every single Vegeta release. It just makes him look horrible. Like, it really does. And this one's even worse because they haven't taken into account the sheer width of these shoulders. So you're trying to pop them to where his arms don't look as if they're like down to his knees, and you can't close up the armor without like pulling it right over it, in which case that then rubs against the plastic, which will then in turn probably rub off the paint, the yellow paint, and it just looks as bad as ever. Like, that in itself looks far better, even though he still has the bulky shoulders. But yeah, they did not think this through when they were designing this figure. And as such, the only way to get the shoulders in place means that his arms are way too long looking. And this is what happens when you reuse parts instead of just making a new one. I mean, honestly. I mean, the legs as well. They went through the effort of redesigning the legs, but left them 2.0. Like, why? You had the perfect opportunity to make these into a 3.0 style leg. If these caps weren't here, it would basically be a 3.0 leg. Like, I really don't understand what they were thinking with this. Like, I really don't. They've even widened up his rear end a bit, so when I try to do the articulation later, you'll see it doesn't really work right. Honestly, like, I'm honestly trying to think of good points about this figure, but there are hardly any. Like, I've already spoke about them. The neck as well, like, it looks fine in this position, but they've made it so that you can have him flying, but why is there a massive gap? Like, that could have quite easily been filled in with a bit of extra plastic. It's not as if the inside of his chest is prime real estate. Like, it's hollow in there. All the joints are filled. Like, you do not need to leave that gap. You really don't. It gives a lot of articulation, but at the same time, articulation should not be gained at the expense of, like, looks of a figure. That's what Revoltech used to do, and I hated them for it. It looked horrendous. Like, honestly. But yeah, it's just so disappointing. It really is. They could have had a perfect figure here, but they decided to cheap out. Not even so much cheap out. Like, the only real reused parts here are the lower legs, because they did give him the actual toes that he should have. So the lower legs and the arms, both of which, like, should have been redone, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, what you're going to do, it's out now, we are stuck with it, make of that what you will. In terms of articulation, like I said before, the head can go up really far if we just use that, because for whatever reason, that is the old style 2.0 Vegeta neck peg. They didn't give him a double barbell joint, which would have negated the need for the lower neck to have so much range. But yeah, the head can go up that far, can go down a little bit. If we use the neck joint, it can look down really far, look up really far, but it does look ugly as sin. We get a lot of tilt. Again, all of that tilt could have been in the head instead of the neck. Would have saved the look of the figure. The armour is on the Broly style sort of back hinge. I kind of wish for this guy they would have given him the middle hinge, because at least that way we could have popped it up to get it out of the way, which would kind of save it in some positions. But this one, you get 0 positions where this looks good apart from stuck to him, honestly. But you get that out of the way. It does have a hinge that just popped off. It does have a hinge and swivel in there. You pop that back on, just like so. The arms can get out quite far. Of course, this articulation is completely useless because that looks daft. You're never going to use it like that, ever. Does have a swivel, which can't go all the way around because the armour gets in the way. He does have a decent butterfly joint, but because of how broad his shoulders and chest is, that's about as far as you can get. You can bring it over, which gets more range, but again, you are making it look daft because the armour is out of the way. I'm also not sure why, like, I think with the Gohan and Krillin armoured releases, they actually gave him a separate front piece, which got rid of these edges here, and gave him more forward range. But they didn't bother with this guy. Not sure why. Just the usual, I suppose. Bicep rotation, double joint at the elbow, gets past 90. Ball hinge at the wrist. The ab section is not a pull-up hinge. So, well, as far as I know, it isn't. So it really gets very little range at all. Like, that's as far back as he can go. And that's as far forward as he can go. Like, that cut might as well not be there. He does get a tiny bit of side-to-side tilt. But, yeah, I have no idea. Like, if you push it back, like, out the box it looks like this. But you can push it back the way, so that I have it flush against the rest of his lower section, which does look better. Obviously the back will have a bit of a gap instead, but that's something you have to live with. He has waist rotation, very little pivot. That is leaving absolutely nothing to the imagination there. The legs can go up that far. Because they sort of moulded this part, you kind of have to pull it out to get it back. Thigh rotation. In terms of the splits, because it's the 2.0 articulation and it being an offshoot of Vegeta's legs in particular, that's as good as you're getting. That is terrible. I am not sure why. Like, honestly, the more I play with this thing, the more confused I am at what Tamashii were thinking. Like, honestly. Double bend at the knee. No boot cut, but he does have a swivel there. We have the old style front-facing angled double barbell joint, which gets him some decent range, but not a whole lot. That's all you're getting front. That's what you're getting back the way. you do get a little bit of ankle pivot, and the most laughable amount of toe articulation. So yeah, honestly, like, the first thing I'm doing in the part 2 is swapping out these shoulders, because they are just so frustrating to me. I could probably swap out the legs as well, but I honestly don't want to bring down my other figures to do that. But yeah, let's quickly bring in some one comparison, rather, and that is this 1.0 Vegeta. A bootleg Datong 1.0 Vegeta. Some people were asking me if I still had these. This guy is actually the one I use on my shelf, because I couldn't get on with how the 2.0 Scouter looked. So yeah, he's a bit taller. Obviously not as accurate to the anime when you look at them side by side. But he gets the job across. But yeah, I know what one I would pick at this point. It would still be the Namek style, the Namek Saga. But yeah, there's absolutely no reason to get this guy if you got the 1.0 or the 2.0, like, frankly. But yeah, guys, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I know I've been pretty negative this review. I apologise again for that. But at the same time, he deserves it. Link is in the description, or should be anyway, to purchase this guy if you haven't got him already. He is still a decent figure. I just wish he would have been a 3.0 release instead of not even a 2.5. I would say this guy's closer to a 2.2. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.